usual, but we do have this. And the reason we're playing this, we want to say aloha to our friends in the 50th state. On this date, March 18th, 1959, President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed the Hawaii Statehood Bill. But actually, Hawaii didn't become a state until August 21st, 1959. Alaska had just become the 49th state earlier in that year, 1959, and then Hawaii came in as 50 in August. And as we talk about this, I'm reminded of our favorite state, Arizona, the 48th state, coming in on February 14th, 1912. And Arizona is special right now. We're at top of the news. We're at the top of the food chain, right, Alice?
Ain't that the truth?
And because this Tuesday is our primary. And for those of you that are going to be participating in the primary process, we do want to share some information with you. First of all, we want to let you know that early balloting, your early voting, has closed. It closed today. So if you have a ballot at home, you didn't mail it, at this point, don't bother to mail it. It'll probably end up as a provisional vote. You are better off simply on Tuesday to walk it in to any one of the 60 poll sites that are going to be spread out throughout Maricopa County. And the polls open at 6 o'clock if you'd like to do it the old-fashioned way, the way Alice and George and I like to do, by going in and marking our preferences. The ballots open at 6 a.m. They close at 7 p.m. We're talking about Tuesday, March 22nd. And if you would like some more information, a link on the county's election website will locate 3 polling sites closest to the user's mobile phone. Everybody's using mobile phones these days.
That's a really cool app. Yeah.
Very cool app. The list is going to be available on the county's website, recorder.maricopa.gov/polling place. Well, what could be easier than that?
And I've got my polling place already picked out, and definitely you can take it to any polling place and drop it off. So that's not a problem.
That's right. That's not a problem.
I hate early ballot. I hate it, hate it, hate it.
You like to go in?
Well, I want to go in. I always think, what if something happens? What if well, in this case, Rubio just dropped out. What if you voted early and you actually voted for Rubio? It's not my candidate, but that could have happened.
That's a good point.
What if the candidate, something happens the day before? What if they die the day before?
God forbid,
I've never liked it. Plus, when you turn in that ballot, and it's a early ballot and you turn it in that day, they still have to take it out. They have to verify it. It doesn't immediately get counted. So I think that kind of messes things up.
Yeah. So that's the information that we have for you. We have a lot happening today, but if you want some more information about the primary process, you can also not only go on the county recorder's office, right, Helen Purcell, but you can also, if you have any questions, Arizona Secretary of State's office, you can visit azsos.gov. So we're giving you a lot of website information right now, right off the bat.
And only if you're a Republican or a Democrat or the Green Party. They're closed primaries. So if you're a Democrat, don't try to go to the Republican primary. They're going to tell you no.
Get out. They're going to say get.
And George, you already voted because you had an early ballot, didn't you?
No, I actually I go to the polls.
Oh, so you're not early ballot.
And I just want to remind everybody we're on YouTube. Go to YouTube and check in the Sonia Salsa S, and you can watch us live. And we're also live on KFNX on their website. So we're live on 2 TVs.
We're really doing a radio show. This is a real deal, isn't it?
This is radio, YouTube, whatever
fun.
You want. It's we are technology. It's true.
Hey, let's do this. To celebrate the 50th state in our republic, let's give away a $50 gift certificate to Rosita's Fine Mexican Food Restaurant.
Yeah.
Give us a call if you'd like that at 602-277-KFNX, 602-277-5369.
Do it, because it's good. You won't regret it. And in fact, we might give away 2 today. You know that? Ooh. Are you feeling generous?
Yeah.
If you call in, because we've got plenty of to give away.
Also, I wanted to mention we have Loops in the house.
Loops, she's here.
I am looped in the loops of your hair.
Loops McGee is usually on our Saturday edition, and we do Saturdays on Central City Radio So if you can't get enough of us tonight, 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, centralcityradio.com. She's going to come in here and say howdy doody.
She wants.
Loops, we've
we want her
missed
to
you.
say hi because we want to also talk about our Saturday show. How are you, Loops?
Hey there, how's everyone?
Get up,
You
get up,
need a
get up to the
microphone.
mic.
Hola, hola, ¿cómo estamos?
Muy
De
bien.
maravilla, ¿qué me cuentas? ¿Qué de nuevo?
Just off today, enjoying the day.
Yeah. What color green is that? That's an iridescent, greenish yellow.
You're trying to
color.
wake
You're
us
very
up.
bright. You're very bright. You look like you could be working at a construction site or
I
something.
actually feel like that's kind of every time I wear this, yeah, I can
Yeah.
stop traffic. Isn't that great?
You definitely stop traffic.
Holy moly.
Well, we have a great show for you tonight. Besides the creepy old guy here on the mic, we want to talk about Marco Rubio.
Rubio
Se
afuera.
despide. Se despide. He's out, right? He's no
Afuera.
longer afuera. Está afuera.
He's out of here.
He's out. Fox is out. Trump is in Arizona, right?
Yeah, and Trump won't debate, and Obama nominates. How do you like that?
What do you think of that nomination? Have you given much thought to that Supreme Court nomination?
Well, I've been hearing more things about him. He's not as, if you just hear him on the surface, it sounds like, oh gosh, pretty conservative guy, but not really. He's not. He's not. It's all strategy. Obama's doing that. I think McConnell kind of messed up because immediately came out of the gate and he said, no, we're not gonna do this. We're not gonna do that. Should have just played it cool. Let the Constitution do what it's supposed to. Like we had Chris Ann Hall was on and she told us, let the Constitution work like it's supposed to work.
Right.
Because now all they're doing is coming back and more things to blame on the Republicans, more things to blame. So I'm not a fan. I want a Republican president in there to nominate a good Supreme Court justice, like a new Scalia. That's all we need.
I would be happy with anyone who is going to adhere to the Constitution.
Exactly.
That's all I
exactly.
care about. Hey, we have a very special guest in studio, Claire Lopez. Would you like to talk about that, Alice?
Yes. You have to stay tuned for this show because it's going to be a fantastic one. My good buddy Claire Lopez, she is Vice President for Research and Analysis, the Center for Security Policy. I got to meet Claire a while back when I was filling in for the Lisa Benson show. And in fact, our good friend Dr. Laura Packy is also here in studio with us too. And he's responsible for getting her over here. Thank you very much. In fact, one cool thing is I just saw that Claire is now on the Cruz National Security Team.
Like
All right.
Ted Cruz, you were talking about.
Ted Cruz, exactly.
Okay.
Just say hello
That's
for
right.
a minute. I know.
Thank you, everyone. I'm glad to be here with you tonight.
So it's going to be a wonderful
Well, welcome.
segment. We're going to have her for the bulk of the show. If you have some questions, please call in 602-277-KFNX, 602-277-5369. Talk to Claire and also win a Rosita's gift certificate. What do you think?
I think that's great, and I can't wait to dive into that bowl of salsa that Lyle brought in. He brought in some chips and salsa. We actually have chips and salsa in our show. We are very, very authentic now in that way. We really have chips and salsa.
And I liked how they're, the bag has the grease stain marks, so it's very
Completely
authentic.
greasy.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here. I can't wait.
Do it.
You have the former Attorney General of the United States,
Yes.
Sheriff of Maricopa County, Uncle Joe.
Yes.
You got Claire Lopez, all these big name people, but what I'd like to know, other than me, who has brought chips and salsa? I rest my case.
I don't
Thank
think
you.
anyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You know what?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I can't
Memory
think of
fails.
anybody.
Memory fails. Well, actually, we should say, wait a minute. Sonia, who is our producer,
Yeah.
she makes a insanely good salsa, and she brings that in every once in a while, right, George? Everybody's nodding yes.
And
but
she even kicks in and does it without cilantro for me.
That's
and
right.
her
She
mom.
does. But now, Lyle, did you make this salsa, or where's that coming from? Because it looks absolutely rich and
the
hearty
last-
and delicious.
You remember the first time I was on your show,
Yeah.
I had a real problem because you all three were in a salsa bowl, and it created real emotional issues for me in salsa. So
You were excluded.
I was excluded. I wasn't allowed to be in the bowl, and so I had to deal with all of this stuff, okay? And I've been bringing chips and salsa the last 3 times I've been on. So I can't tell you how we made them. It's a secret. It's a state secret, but they are very, very good.
Well, that's what the show is all about. Something that's very, very good. We want you to be a part of it. Stay right here. You're listening to the Chips and Salsa Show on 1100 KFNX.
Killer. You guys are fun.
You're right on time, but there's a traffic right
Um,
there. I mean, it's nothing.
I'm good.
There's a traffic.
George, you remember what the Wi-Fi password is?
I have a good.
Do you remember what the Wi-Fi password is?
I'll hang out.
Is it zero? It's like I think it's 015 times or something. Yeah, could you ask?
No, you can't.
Well, I know I had to drive you back. Yes, I can.
Where are
You've
you?
been announced as a guest. You can't leave.
I do the floors.
Where are you staying?
I am at a Holiday Inn in Scottsdale.
Oh, okay. So he's gonna take you back
Keep your wheels back.
to your hotel. He's driving you back to your hotel.
Well, my car is at his house.
Oh.
So I've got a
So
rental
you'll
car.
back
So
there.
I'll go back with them to their place, pick up my car. And I'm short distance. I mean, 5 minutes, 7 minutes from their house is where the hotel is.
Oh, okay.
Off of Shea.
That's not bad.
No, it's
That's
not bad
not
at all. I deliberately
Luis wanted to
got
know.
it there.
0152.
Yeah, I deliberately booked there so it'd be convenient for the weekend.
Oh, okay.
And then on Monday, I got to move to Mesa so that we can do the training program there next week.
Equal opportunity.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
So
Been all
you're
over
going to
the
be
place.
busy. You're
Yeah, I
going to be
began in Florence earlier this week.
Wow.
Did a 2-day course down there, then moved up here to Scottsdale, and then I'll go down to Mesa tomorrow, or Monday.
I'll have to read some up.
Hey Luis, it's 01 and do that 5 times. That's the Wi-Fi
Like 010101.
for the Wi-Fi code.
We have no choice but then to.
That's the Wi-Fi code for the station to get Wi-Fi.
Woohoo, here we go, right?
Yeah.
We were all nailing the guy to the
You guys,
clock.
security experts, I don't know. 01.
No, 0101.
Yeah, he is.
5 times, yeah.
The last guy. So, you know?
I'm going to put this over
I'm going to
so that
segue
it
in
won't
because
talk, because
we were at a
I
tea
don't wanna
party
do it
yesterday,
while we're on, so-
and we're talking about chips and salsa.
That way-
Yeah.
And I started talking. I was saying how we've had security experts, and we've talked about.
Más o menos también.
You were
Yeah.
speaking Wednesday, weren't you?
Yeah.
The Tea Party, London. Yeah.
The grassroots tea party, exactly.
Tienes razón, tienes
And then
razón.
these guys kind of got into it.
Crazy though.
So I might talk about that to bring you back and segue about that because it was very interesting. Do you know Mark Del Maestro? Del Maestro? Yeah, he was there.
They
So
got into it.
one guy was saying, well, you really, we're Christians and we shouldn't speak badly about that,
About what?
about Islam, and we're supposed to pray for them. And then Mark says, well, when they're going to kill us, And I said, let me tell you. I said, I understand what you're saying, because to come on the air, and we had some guy that came on there one time, you need to kill everybody. No, that's, you don't want that on your airwaves. You
Probably not.
probably not
Not
to
the
do
most
that.
tactful way to approach the problem.
But it is a serious problem, and I said, and I know also there are communities in the United States that are practicing their Sharia law out there. Oh, wrap it up.
Working.
They're ready to go.
Carrier is not tied right.
We love chips and salsa. Yes, we really do. Hey, this is Alice Lara here, getting your Friday night, your guac on. I'm here with my good friend Martin Gonzalez. George Ortiz is in the house. He's kind of doing pictures and stuff like that. So
He's
we'll
like
be out
an
here with him.
amiable host. He's making sure everybody has water and something to drink and something to eat and they're comfortably seated.
You know what it is?
He's a very gracious host.
He's got his beret on, so he thinks he's a director.
Estás en tu casa, Jorge.
He's going to say, cut! One of he's going to córtale. We also have Miss Lux Munguia is here too, right?
Hello.
We have Muchos in the Molcajete. We have my good friend too, Luis Rodriguez is here as part of our studio audience. Luis Rodriguez ran for city council in my district, District 8. And he's
How
just,
long ago was that?
this was, a couple years ago, 2013, I think, right, Luis?
2013.
25 years military salute to you in the Army. He was a chief warrant officer 4. And just a great guy, so he might weigh in here also.
Is he going to run again soon, anytime?
I'm trying to get him, but he
Luis, what are
travels
you
too
thinking?
much.
I'm thinking I need to hit the lottery first.
Yeah.
The sad reality about politics is if you have to work, it's hard to campaign.
Yeah, I
and I have to
imagine.
work.
It's
So.
kind of tough.
What do you
Yeah.
do for work?
I work fielding new equipment to Army soldiers. So
Oh.
I'm still around the soldiers a lot. So it's fun.
Like
fun
you're
job.
like a government contractor kind of?
Government contractor.
Oh,
yeah.
good for you.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks
continued
so much.
success in what you do.
And, from time to time, I tell him when he's in town, because he travels a lot, just to come and to stop in and help us out in the Chips and Salsa show and We've interviewed him for one of our military moments on the Saturday edition,
Right.
which we do. So thank you, Luis, for coming in. Also, my husband, Mark Baker's in the studio. Hola,
Hey, Mark. We
Mark
don't get to see Mark
Espanadero.
often enough.
Never
We don't get to
I
see Mark
know.
often
like
enough.
behind the sound of chips and salsa and gives us a thumbs up, yay or nay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he grades us. He's a harsh grader, Marcos Monedero. And also Dr. Laura Packy's lovely wife, Kathleen.
Hi,
is there too.
Kathleen.
Hey there. And Jacob's doing a good job behind the glass. In fact, remember, call Jacob, 602-277-5369 to win that Rosita's $50 gift certificate, 602-277-5369, or to ask a question of our fabulous guest here, Claire Lopez. It's so wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here with you.
I want to tell our audience just a little bit about you. She is the Vice President for Research and Analysis, Center for
Security policy.
Sorry about that. Got my glasses. You know, I need new glasses. So
Do you have bifocals or trifocals?
I have
or?
the progressives.
Oh, yeah, I get
but
it.
I still do need one.
I know. Sometimes I have to take my glasses off to read
I
them.
need a big John Mrs. Magoo here sometimes.
Yeah.
She is an expert on intelligence. She has a focus on the Middle East, national defense, WMDs. I have this big long thing, but I'm not even going to go through it. If you want to Google her, you'll find out more than you even want to know.
Can we just
But
summarize
here's-
and say she's brilliant?
She's fantastic. What I want to do, though, real quick, George and I got to go to, and a shout out to our grassroots tea party. We were on Wednesday night. We got to speak there. And as we started to talk about things that threaten our national security, like radical Islam, there were a couple of gentlemen who started getting into it a little bit and were saying how we really need to be respectful of that and not speak too badly and pray as Christians. And I agree. As a Christian and a Catholic, we do need to pray for them. But I wasn't sure if he was getting the very seriousness of it all. The fact that there are some communities, I think Claire could tell us, that actually have Sharia law sometimes already. Am I going too far, Claire?
No, not at all, not at all. I think a whole lot of people don't really understand what Islam is. First of all, it's not a religion per se. It might have religious aspects to it, but in fact, Islam is really much more of an ideology. It is a legal political system. It is called by Muslims themselves a total way of life. That's not a religion. That is something much broader than merely a religion. And when we hear this term, radical Islam, what does that mean? There's nothing radical about it. It's straight up the middle. It's authoritative. It's orthodox. You go to the scriptures, the doctrine of Islam, to find out what's in it, and that would be mainstream. It's not radical. There's nothing extreme about it. That is just normal Islam. Unfortunately, because there is a very long history, as we know, Islam is coming up on about 1,400 years since it was founded. And it is unfortunately a history of conquest and subjugation of other civilizations.
One of the things is Zuhdi Jasser. He's one person that I know of, and there aren't that many. And I've talked about this in the past. I would feel a little more comfortable with what the gentleman was saying if I could hear more of that side, who are saying, well, we don't think that these things should be done. We're Muslim, but we don't believe that way. But really, how do you differentiate that?
Well, I think first of all, the important distinction to be made is that there is the doctrine of Islam, that is the Islam of the law and the scripture, the canon, if you will, of Islam. That is what Islam is. And then there are people, there are individual people, and you have to deal with people, I think, on an individual basis as they are. Now, just because a person calls themselves Muslim doesn't necessarily mean that they obey or adhere to what Islam commands. Now, Islam does command jihad in the way, fi sabilillah, in the way of Allah. That is a commandment of Islam. Do they all obey it? No, and thank goodness they don't, right? But they have varying degrees of obedience to Islam. And what we would consider, and what some people might call a moderate Muslim, would be basically a person who really doesn't obey Islam or its commandments very well. because the commandments actually order and obligate Muslims to fight jihad to conquer the world. That is the obligation of all Muslims everywhere, to conquer the rest of the world and subjugate it to Islamic law. Now, they don't all do that. Thank goodness they don't. But that doesn't change Islam. It only means that people are picking and choosing, and they're doing cafeteria style Islam.
I understand too. There is a Phoenix being a very large city. I think we're number 5 or number 6 in the nation.
We're a top 10 media market
We're
for
a
sure.
top 10 media market.
And the fifth, Maricopa County is the 5th largest county in the country. So we're big time.
What are the elements that are here? Obviously, there are mosques. We see them, but I don't know much about them. I don't go to a mosque. I'm a Roman Catholic. So, what should we know about?
Well, the first thing to know is that the United States probably has around 2,200 or so mosques throughout the entire country, more or less. And of those, the vast majority, well over 50%, are under the control of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood, of course, is a jihadist organization from which we derive, or have been derived, Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State, and Hamas. Hamas, of course, is the Palestinian branch of the Muslim Brotherhood. So the vast majority of mosques in the United States are under the control of a jihadist organization founded in 1928 in Egypt called the Muslim Brotherhood. That's the first thing to know. In the Phoenix greater metropolitan area, well over 24 mosques and Islamic centers. Maybe not 36, but between 2 and 3 dozen, something like that.
Okay.
Claire, I wanted to ask you, we're aware of the disruption that the Democrats are trying to cause, and we only have a minute, and so maybe I could just ask this quickly and we can go to you. But we're aware of the Democrats trying to disrupt the Republican meetings that Donald Trump is having and Ted Cruz is having here. How real is the threat from ISIS and other organizations in Islam on the political candidates that are running for president?
Well, that is going to need a little bit of a longer answer than perhaps we have left, but very briefly.
Maybe we can
We'll
come
bring
back
it
to
back
that.
on the other side.
Perhaps
probably.
come back on
But
the
anyway,
other side of the
I wanted
break,
to
huh?
just kind of set that up, and we can come back in the next segment, the third segment, right here on KFNX. Because that's, and I'm sorry for taking the show kind of in that direction.
No,
but
that's
the information
perfect.
that you brought up is so interesting. But I wanted to tie it into the context of what is happening politically.
Exactly, because this is exactly what we've been talking about, and I've been talking about to law enforcement during this visit here to Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't just about
It's not about the
demonstrations
Democrats.
and protests.
It's not the Democrats either.
Oh, it's not?
No. I mean, it might be partly Bernie Sanders and, his followers. Sure, some might be.
Do you think
That's
it might
not
be
the-
more George Soros and that?
I will give you 3 divisions of the elements that are coming out in these protests. I'll tell you about those. It's 3 distinct elements, but they link up in hatred of America.
Why don't you bring
Okay.
it back in, Mark? Do that. We were going to have you loops, but since you kind of got it. And did you get, this is her better title in the red. She updated it for me.
Vice President
For research and analysis.
Vice President for Research and Analysis Center for
Security policy.
Okay.
That's a think tank. I work for a think tank in Washington, D.C. That's what that is.
Vice President for Research and Analysis Center for Policy
At the center. It's an at, because that's a place. That's an office.
Analysis.
So we're a nonprofit.
And the name of it is
The Center for Security Policy.
The Center for Security Policy.
Yeah,
Okay. I
yeah,
see.
that's its name.
Okay, great. Vice President for Research and Analysis at the Center for Security Policy, a Washington, D.C. thing.
No, that's
I mean-
exactly it. Yep.
I haven't
Okay, thank you.
delved into it in detail, but a lot of that stuff, I've been aware of. I mean, I spent a year in Afghanistan. That's all I did.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Which part?
I was at FOB Salerno, out in Host.
In Khost.
Yeah, close.
You weren't there at the time when
The bomb went off?
Yeah.
Yes.
Were you really?
When was
Were you out on that base
Yeah.
at the
Okay,
time?
good. So that
I was
we'll,
actually
we'll
working.
bring her
Oh,
back.
no. Were you in
And
the
we'll- and-
proximity?
and I'll
at all?
restate
no,
the question.
It was
Yeah.
Did
actually
you have the
about
question?
Yeah, no, it was good.
probably 1,000
It was
yards away.
good because it
So
wanted
you
to
must
get
have
into
heard it.
Yeah,
Soon.
yeah,
make it
blew out
more
every window
localized
and-
in
Yeah.
Arizona,
Yeah.
and like to even maybe
They
talk
made
a
so
little
many
bit about the
mistakes.
border
Well, you know,
connection.
Well,
So
plus
many
it kind of brings her into
mistakes.
context too as to
Right.
how
That's
she's
what's
involved in
going on.
It
campaigning.
was a C-130.
Yeah, no, that's
In
perfect.
Iowa.
That's why,
All I had to do
because
was
I'm
turn
looking
around.
over
I mean,
here,
why
and
would
this
they
is,
even bring
it's a
that
little
guy
awkward
anywhere
over here, so I want to
near
make sure if you're going to ask a
us?
question, I want
Why
to make
would
sure
they
I
even
don't
think
Oh, no.
of
just
bringing
keep talking blah, blah,
a
blah,
guy
blah.
like
Well,
that?
you did a great
Anywhere
job
near their
of
base.
setting it
You
up
don't
with
do
her,
that.
and that just
But the
led
woman
to a very
that was the
organic
chief
question.
of the base, she had no background. She was an
Kind
analyst,
of,
and they
I
stuck
tripped
her
over
out
my
there.
tongue a little bit on it.
It was
but-
wrong.
No, you
It
did
was
fine. You
Completely
did
wrong.
good.
It was-
But that's, you know,
Our
it's
studio guest, Claire
She had
Lopez,
no
Vice President
background
for
to
Research
do
and
what she was
Analysis
doing.
at the Center
Yeah,
for
the,
Security Policy at Washington,
you
D.C.
know,
think tank.
Being a contract, I was a contractor at the time.
Uh-huh.
It's one of those things where it's like, hey, excuse me, you.
She broke every single rule of tradecraft that was ever written.
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't deserve what happened to her, but that's the result when
Yeah.
you put a person who's unprepared
Yeah, I think they
in a
got
position
actually
like that.
really, really lucky. I mean,
My Mexican
there was a
fool.
C-130 sitting there.
Mexican Americans.
Right at the breaching point. All you had to do, instead of trying to get in, they were just turned over. That's
Can you hear this?
But that's not what he
No,
wanted.
but I'm
He
good.
wanted to
I mean,
kill
I'm
people.
hearing it here, but I,
He would
you
have killed a
know,
lot of
obviously,
people if he did
Yeah.
C-130.
it's okay.
Well, okay,
Where's
but
your-
he wanted
Here's our
those.
commercial.
Saturday.
Yeah, yeah.
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 And,
Which is
yeah, I
what you
had
did.
to put wrong
Yeah.
the day
So,
they
I mean,
switched my days, but tomorrow I get off at 3:30. So
But
I'll
how in the
be in
world did they
Philadelphia.
even
You are going to
In
come?
other words, I
vet
thought
this
I had
guy
to
or
work today
believe
from
this
7 to
guy
3,
or
and then
anything?
come to the show.
Wrapping it up.
You know,
Here we go.
honestly, we weren't briefed exactly what happened.
Here we go, Martin.
Okay.
No, I know, yeah.
That's what I was.
Ever in the history of ever. Hello and welcome back. You're listening to the Friday edition of the Chips and Salsa Show. I'm Martin Gonzalez, and you are in the Molcajete with Alice Lara
Hola.
and George Ortiz.
Scorpion
Who's-
King.
Behind the camera today
Mr.
on
Beret.
YouTube, so you won't see too much of me, but I'm here.
He is here. He's here and he's queer. No, that's another. That's a completely.
Oh,
That's
politically
another show. We're not even
incorrect.
going to go there. I outed George already.
My wife would be very surprised.
His wife would be very surprised. I don't. You know, sometimes you just gotta mix it up.
I don't think the Muslims would like that.
Good night, everybody. This was a great show. Really glad you were here. We have a very wonderful show for you beyond
Claire's
the
not smiling.
nonsense and these crazy non sequiturs that come out of my head. But in studio we have Claire Lopez, and Claire is the Vice President for Research and Analysis at the Center for Security Policy in Washington, D.C. think tank. And Claire, we were talking earlier. I had a quick question for you because, you know, you were talking about Islam and you were telling us about some of the history and background of Islam, how it's been around for 1,400 years, and how it's much more than just a religion, that it's authoritative, it's political, it's a government, it's law, it's doctrine, and it's a total way of life. And as we look at what's happening today politically, and we're talking about the threat on a global level, but we've seen demonstrators and disruptors and protesters at presidential campaign events, and but how real is the threat of ISIS to our democratic process as we work to get closer towards electing a president?
Yeah, great question to link those things together there. I'm going to leave the Islamic State aside for the moment because I don't think that they pose much of a threat here in the United States per se. Supporters of the Islamic State, Muslims who already live in communities among us, may pose a threat. But to
Well,
get
when
to
you
your
mentioned that nearly half are members of the Muslim Brotherhood.
the mosques,
The
not
mosques.
the people.
Oh, well.
The mosques, more than half of the mosques and Islamic centers in the United States are controlled by the Muslim Brotherhood. That is true.
So do you think that they would try to disrupt our process or disrupt any of the primary or
Well,
the
let's-
general election in any way?
Let's get to that question. It's an excellent lead-in for what we need to talk about here. And I think a lot of people of your viewers, your listeners, have probably seen, the disruption at some of the Trump rallies. For instance, in Dayton, Ohio, where a protester, he was an intending assailant, almost tried to jump up on the stage. Then Mr. Trump had to cancel his event in Chicago because of very credible threats to that event. And then in Kansas City, Missouri, the next night, there were hecklers and protesters all throughout that venue where he was
and
holding
Florida
a rally.
as well.
But here's what's going on, and let me preface this by saying this really isn't about Donald Trump. He might be taking the brunt of it primarily because he's the front runner at this point, but it's not about him. It is about what I would call an unholy alliance of forces coming together. Three elements of those forces, I would say. The first one is the Muslim Brotherhood. Yes, Muslim Brotherhood, and a group they formed in 2014 here in America. A lot of folks probably don't even know about it, but it's the first Muslim Brotherhood political party in America. It's called the USCMO. It stands for United States Council of Muslim Organizations. And this group is a group of groups, if you will, comprised of Muslim Brotherhood groups like CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations, and others. So that's the first part of the protest opposition. The next group are the Black Lives Matter movement people. And these are street thugs, they're anti-American, they're racist, they're violent. And then the third group...
Let me stop you there and ask you, are they funded by George Soros?
To some extent, yes.
Okay.
He is one of their funders, put it that way.
Okay.
So then the third group we've got are the motley crew of anarchists, communists, outright socialists, progressives, etc., who have banded together. You see Bill Ayers, the terrorist from back in the 60s, and his wife Bernadine Dorn at some of these events, for instance. Weather Underground, Communist Party of the USA, these people. Saul Alinskyite type acolytes of Saul Alinsky, if you will, who are dedicated to instituting as much chaos in the streets as they possibly can to disrupt the system, precisely. Cause chaos, and out of that chaos and societal collapse is what they really want. They hope to gain advantage. But these three groups, the Brotherhood groups, which are jihadists, these are jihadis. Nothing radical or extreme about them. They're straight up the middle Muslims, jihadis. And the second group are the Black Lives Matter movement. And then the third, this anarchist communists, this whole group.
This is a dumb question maybe, but I would have to think that the first group would be the most powerful, but who is the most biggest and best organized of these three?
We're seeing, because of the funding, exactly your point that you brought up there, because of the funding and the advance training that has been going on, these guys have been preparing for years for this year of a presidential election, 2016. This didn't start this year or last year.
So it's to exploit the fact that we're having an election,
and to disrupt the system. Lyle, you've got some background.
What about the group where that guy wears a mask?
Anonymous, another part of that.
They just gave out
absolutely.
his Social Security and his phone number earlier today, and it was on the news.
Absolutely, Anonymous is part of that anarchy group.
And Dr. Lyra Packey is going to join us here for a moment.
Thanks. If I could jump in with Claire saying, and we were discussing this earlier today in a consultation, one of the serious things that Martin bringing up, Claire's now jumping in and discussing, is the coming together of these three factions. this is well orchestrated. This is not happenstance. You have the Nation of Islam also that's involved, Farrakhan. These are very dedicated groups to collapse the United States, to thwart law enforcement, and to permanently change our democratic process and our culture. They've been planning this for some time. Many of the leaders are individuals who were involved in the late 1960s, before you all were born. But
Oh, you're very nice to say that.
well, I was in high school. But in 1968, you go back to the Chicago National Convention, and you pull up some of the videos, and Claire and I were discussing this today in a consultation earlier with someone. You are going to see a lot of the same tactics, a lot of the same forces at work. Only today, 40 some odd years, I lost my math, but they're
Going
far
on
more,
50 years, yeah.
Okay, they're far more sophisticated. They're able to tweet and text and do all the things they couldn't do in the 60s. And you bring that into this mix.
With the money.
Well, I want to come there next.
Yeah.
And that's something Claire and I were talking about, is what can we do now to begin to inform not only the citizenry, correct me, Claire, if I'm,
No, exactly,
but also law
exactly.
enforcement, because there is an unholy alliance that has come together, very well planned, over a number of years, and they are now got a perfect storm, and they plan, and they've already launched it against Trump, but they plan on bringing havoc over the next couple of months.
Absolutely, that is right. Oops, you were going to say something.
Yes, I just wanted to, first of all, thank you for being here, and I just read a little bit of your bio here. So I have a question here for you, if you don't mind. Based on your experience and your counterterrorism experience that you've had, and what do you say to this Virginia man that was caught leaving ISIS? This gentleman that was this Palestinian American, who literally, met this another woman and went off and was fighting with them and saw that this is not kind of what he wanted to do. And I don't know if he surrendered or they caught him, but I just want to get an idea as to, does America and or your group that you belong to, are we looking into people within the midst of doing this, heading out, being part of this environment to bring havoc to America? So maybe you can answer that,
Yeah, well, the director of the FBI, James Comey, has spoken on several occasions in front of Congress and to the media as well, talking about how they have their hands absolutely full trying to keep track of all the Islamic State sympathizers, the wannabes. This is a problem we, and to a much greater extent Europe, already have living among us large communities of Muslims, from which some percentage, small percentage though it may be, is going to hear and heed the call to jihad that is the obligation of all Muslims, but they don't all answer the call. But there is no way, as Comey says, for the FBI to keep track of those or to understand which will answer the call next. They have no way to figure out who is it that's going to be a faithful Muslim and take that next step on the path to devotion, to full devotion to Islam, which is jihad. They can't keep track of it.
We need about 3 more hours to
Alice,
do this
this
show.
is disturbing. I can't.
Well, it is disturbing. It is. Maybe what we'll do, we'll come back and we'll finish off a few more minutes with our wonderful guest Claire Lopez and Dr. Laura Packy in studio with us. So please don't go away. Stay tuned for more of the Chips and Salsa Show here with Alice, George, Martin, and muchos en la molcajete. And call in for that gift certificate.
I was just baffled. I was watching the news today on that, and I just want to know, what is this person going to get? Are they
Well, he
bring
should have
him
lost
here?
his citizenship the moment
Yes.
he cleared U.S. airspace.
Right. So
If
and
you
that's
leave the United States and you head off to join that or any of these other groups, you should immediately lose your citizenship.
So that's my question.
Cancel the passport.
What are they going to do to
We have
this
a break.
person? Are they going to bring him? And
I don't know. I mean,
are
he'll
they
have
gonna
charges
charge
brought.
him, or are they
There'll be
gonna,
charges brought against him.
Tracy.
This is Alice.
Aiding and abetting a terrorist organization,
Right.
providing
Hi.
material support to terrorism
But
would be
he's
the
going to
charges.
cry wolf as in
He
would
can
hear
cry
it.
all he likes. He broke the law.
Right. And I just and would would they?
She emailed me.
I would
but
think that
at
they
my
may
house.
want to
Tracy.
use me to find out more information.
They'll certainly
on
be
others.
querying
They're
him.
definitely,
Yeah, they will definitely
they
have a
might-
lot of questions for this guy. He might get himself a lighter sentence by cooperating. That
Yeah, but
could be.
simply
You
being
can send it to
remorseful
real easy.
doesn't
My real easy one is
free him of
Alice,
any
ALICE.
No, he's
consequence.
He'll have to
L-O-R-A.
pay.
Groundwork
You know,
for
at
defense
hotmail.com.
or mitigation anyway by saying I had a change of heart.
Right,
And
that's
I wanted to come out.
basically.
Well,
Well,
That
I
was
mean,
his statement.
they will decide what is in the
Yes.
best interests, you know,
Of the-
what
of
he's
the
doing
of the
is laying
country.
groundwork
And if he truly
for
has
you
good
and others
information and
to
he's willing to provide it,
Sympathy.
you know, they might knock a couple years off his
Claire's
sentence,
right.
but he's going to
He
jail.
left the United States with the intention to join a terrorist organization back on.
Okay, we just have a few more seconds till we're going back. So
Concern and fear of that is that this is just one individual
Uh-huh.
who
There are
has that change
thousands.
of heart.
Good for you.
But there's
Okay.
there's a lot more.
They
There's a
can't
lot more
track.
within
All right.
within all these.
And they
organizations.
can't keep track of them.
They don't have
They
any
don't.
idea.
They don't know who's going to
Okay.
pop next, because they're already living
all right,
here.
I'm
We
going to
allowed
finish
them
the show
in.
right now. Can I
We
call
allowed
him
them
after
to
the
be
show
here.
a little bit after
Well,
nine?
that's what's so
Without
bewildering,
assimilating.
That's a
isn't
lot.
it?
That's a lot more scary than a guy.
Without
a bunch of guys
assimilating.
who wants to rake your yard and do your lawn and all this other stuff.
No, I'm not George's assistant, although he likes to think I am.
Well, these are
I'm one of the
It's the same.
co-hosts
You can't
for the
conflate
Chips and
two
Salsa
things.
show.
Right,
It's the
but
same. You need to
yeah.
I'm the
control
lead
what's
producer.
created.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
can't.
That's okay.
That's what happens on the left when they start,
Yeah.
mitigating the same. Well, this is not the same.
No,
you
no.
can't do that.
But
Breaking
where
laws,
where
breaking
this
I will
laws.
where
call
this
him right
does
after the show.
conflate,
Who is
I
the
know we
person
don't
that
have
we
time
would
for
have
it
on the show
tonight,
tomorrow?
but it's the whole issue of the U.S.
Okay.
federal
I'll call
refugee
Thayer
and
after the show
immigration
then.
program.
Thank you, Tracy.
That's where this
Appreciate
comes
it.
together.
Alrighty, same here. Bye bye.
That
There's not
program
Sorry,
is,
George's
is
assistant.
not enough research on these.
My assistant.
They
Yeah, I
can't
think
do it.
so. Think so, yeah.
Well, they can't do it.
How do you do it? You know, you're gonna. What are they gonna do? You know, Comey's gonna call up, Bashar al-Assad. Hey, Bashar, old buddy, can you just check with your police
Who
chief
wants to
down
bring
there
it
in
back?
Homs,
Is that a call?
and
Luke, you
tell
wanna
me
bring it
about
back?
Mohammed over there.
Okay. Claire Lopez, Vice President.
Hello everyone, ¿cómo estamos? Welcome back to the Chips and Salsa show. Hold on. Hello everyone, thank you and welcome back to the Chips and Salsa show here with Claire Lopez, which is our Vice President for Research and Analysis at the Center for Security Policy. Is that correct?
That's it, and thank you.
Thank you. And we were just talking a little bit about issues that are within the midst of our American, quote unquote American ISIS members that we may be lurking in the midst. So we were talking off the air. Can you elaborate a little bit on that as to what kind of security measures are we having, or can we identify anything like that within?
Well, there are a couple of issues here, exactly as you say, Loops, and they're issues that are related to one another. When we are talking, for instance, about the U.S. government, refugee resettlement and immigration issue, and the intent of the President Obama administration to bring over thousands of Syrians and others from these war-torn areas of the Middle East. And then you get the FBI director up there in front of Congress saying, we can't vet these people. There is no way to figure out if these documents they're showing us are real. We know most of them are not. They're fake. There's no way to vet them. There's no way to know what their backgrounds are. And in any case, because of the deep and broad penetration of the Muslim Brotherhood of our senior national security across the board, senior top national security of the United States is completely penetrated and influenced by the Muslim Brotherhood. Our officials are not even allowed to query intending immigrants about their ideological thinking, let's say about jihad or about Sharia. It's not just, well, do you belong to Al-Qaeda? No, I don't belong to Al-Qaeda.
Right.
Okay, good to go, come on in. Rather, I would posit this. What is more dangerous? A single jihadi who gets let in somehow and intends to do harm to Americans, or a Muslim mother with 10 children who teaches them and raises them to love jihad and to hate America? Which one is more dangerous?
That's such a powerful question. To tell you the truth, both scare me. Just even the thought of that scare me.
Claire, I have to ask you now, it used to be at one time when we had an actual acting immigration policy and enforced laws. You could do things like that. You could question people's integrity, couldn't you? Couldn't you ever?
I would say in the time of the Cold War, when communism was seen as the primary ideological threat to the United States at that time, in those years, there were concerns about the ideology of communism, and questions were asked on immigration forms and in immigration interviews about allegiance or affiliation, let's say, to communism as an ideology. We got a long way away from that now. Because there was a great purge inside the United States government. All these words that we're using right now, jihad, caliphate, Islamic terror, they are not allowed to even think these words, much less speak them in the U.S. government today, or you will lose your job.
You said something very powerful, not allowed to think. You can't. It's very true.
Well, we've talked about this when I've been on the program a couple of times, where our borders are unsecure. We all know that. But there's evidence, actual evidence that's been collected over the years in Arizona proves Middle Eastern countries that are adversarial to the United States would be Iran, Pakistan, others. Evidence of their people coming across our Arizona border has been collected. Now, you think about this. I in my presentations to the legislature, Arizona legislature, and others, we've presented documentation that goes all the way back to 2001. That was right after the bombings. Here we are, 2016, and we're still very insecure along our border. But more importantly, like Claire was just talking about, policy now is that you are not allowed to interdict these people coming across if they're even captured. You're not allowed to query them about certain questions. And then you're not allowed to pursue this if you have evidence that they are from a country that's adversarial to the United States. So what we have here is not only political correctness, but we have a government that has forgotten its first line of responsibility, which is to protect we the people and the sovereignty. If we no longer have a nation, we no longer have a constitution. And if they do away with our constitution, which they're trying to do, chip away, then we no longer have a nation. So it's hand in hand. And going back to what Claire and I talked about a few minutes ago, and what we were discussing earlier today at a consultation, you've got these radical groups joining forces with the Muslim Brotherhood for the first time, I think, Claire. I defer to you.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Okay. For the first time, we've got not only
Openly, that is, for the first
very open,
time,
very
coming
open.
into the open confrontation.
They're not even bashful about it, or even trying to be covert about it at all. You've got SDS, Students for Democratic Society. That goes back to the 1960s. You've got the Weather Underground. You got Communist Party of USA. I mean, we just go on down the list of these groups from the 60s that have now teamed up with Muslim Brotherhood, Nation of Islam, and other entities. And this is a formidable foe that's now coming against us here domestically. And Claire was also talking about foreign, what's coming this way as far as the caliphate and all. But we're also talking what's taking place here domestically.
And I'll if I may, tout a book that we have at our website, centerforsecuritypolicy.org. We have a series of monographs posted there. We call it the Civilization Jihad Reader Series. One of them is titled The Red-Green Axis, written by our good friend Jim Simpson. And that is the story of red, as in leftist, communist, socialist, progressives, all of those, with green, meaning the Muslim forces. Let me just point out to you really quickly a couple of things that people should know about in our national security, but they probably don't. Al-Qaeda published a 7-phase plan in 2005. Okay, that's what, 11 years ago now? And that 7-phase plan laid out exactly what they were going to do. They told us what they were going to do. The period of 2010 till 2013 was overthrow of the hated Arab governments. What happened? The Islamic uprising. 2013 till 2016 was to be the period for the declaration of the caliphate. What happened? Islamic State declared a caliphate. 2016 onwards, where we are right now, is the period of total confrontation. And that's what we're looking at, as you were just saying, Lyle, here in the United States as well as abroad. The gloves are off. It is total confrontation time against the forces of the West, Western civilization, abroad as well as at home.
They are right on target.
And it's also having an impact, what you're talking about, economically. Look at what's happening with the euro and the economies in Europe that we are going to see the effects of very soon in the United States. Every country is now suffering economically. The dollar is weaker, the yen is weaker. How is it that you can have such hyperinflation in Japan in the last year? So there are problems all over the world economically because of this as well.
Well, many things are sort of converging, I would say, in the threat convergence sense of things. But Europe certainly faces a much greater problem than the United States, and simply because they're geographically closer to Muslim countries of the Middle East and certainly to North Africa, and because of their mistaken policies of allowing themselves to be overrun by migrants, the vast majority of whom are young, fit, military-aged Muslim males who are now on a rape rampage across Europe.
And in particularly Germany, I'm sure they're regretting their policy, their immigration policy in that country.
Claire, we only have about, less than a minute. Could you take maybe 10, 15 seconds? Give us some hope.
Well, I think the hope is, first of all, thank you to a radio station like yours, a program like yours at Chips and Salsa, for educating people about it, because that's number one. To be educated citizens, the next thing to do is to become engaged citizens. That means to engage in the political process, not just to vote, but to support candidates who understand these things, to be active online, to be, if you are so inclined, call into radio shows, call into TV shows, become engaged in any way that you know how. Join groups like Act for America, a chapter group across America, for instance. Become active and engaged citizens.
Thank you so much, Claire Lopez. If you'd like to know more about her, it's Clare Lopez. Please join us again next Friday night, 8 p.m. here for more of the Chips and Salsa Show with Martin, Alice, and George. Good night. Sorry, Luke.
Oh my God,
One second.
that was an hour?